They mocked her, laughed at her, poured soda on her back like she was nothing. To them, she was just the quiet black woman in a cleaning uniform, silent, invisible. But she was not alone. 10 minutes later, the man they least expected walked in. He did not yell, he did not threaten, he just asked one question that turned the whole building silent. Who touched my wife? And that was just the beginning. Because she was not there to clean. She was there to take back everything they thought she did not deserve. Hey, mop girl, you missed a spot. Janelle heard it again. The nickname, the tone, the humiliation. She was on her knees in the luxury hallway of Sterling & Co., scrubbing marble floor that already gleamed. She had just cleaned that spot, twice. But she did not answer. She had learned something. Silence was safer than pride. Behind her, Marissa and her circle of interns hovered with iced lattes and too much perfume. Honestly, it smells like chemicals and bad coffee in here. Is that you? Laughter. Not the kind you laugh with, the kind that stings. Janelle's hand trembled, but she kept wiping. Her uniform sleeves were damp, her knees hurt, her eyes burned, but she blinked the tears away. If they saw her cry, they would win. I wonder if she even speaks English, Marissa said, sipping from her gold-rimmed cup. Or if she just understands, clean that. That was when someone whispered, watch this. A cold splash hit her shoulder, then her back, then the floor in front of her. Coca-Cola, sticky, icy, smelling like humiliation. Oops, said a voice. Guess you really have something to clean now. The hallway went quiet. Then someone laughed, and another. The laughter grew, bouncing off glass walls and echoing into the open-plan offices. Janelle stood up slowly. Her blouse clung to her back. Her shoes squeaked. No one offered a tissue. No one stepped forward. Even the security guard looked the other way. But Janelle did not scream. She did not break. She reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a phone. A single tap. One number. No words. Just the sound of breath on the other end. Then she whispered, "It happened again." The voice was calm, still, dangerous. "I am on my way." She hung up. No one in that hallway knew what she had just done. No one guessed who she had just called. To them, she was just the cleaner, just the black woman who should know her place. But 10 minutes later, the building's front doors opened. The sound of leather shoes echoed across the marble. A man in a dark suit stepped in. No ID badge, no hesitation. He walked like he owned the place. Because he did. Someone gasped. "Is that Mr. Donovan?" The billionaire founder, reclusive, ruthless, untouchable. No one had seen him in weeks. Why was he here? Why was he angry? He did not speak to anyone. He walked straight down the hallway. And then he stopped. In front of Janelle. Her blouse still damp, her eyes still shining, but not with tears anymore. And what he said made the entire office go silent. "Who touched my wife?" A silence thicker than concrete filled the hallway. Did he just say, wife? Marissa blinked like she had misheard. The interns went pale. One accidentally dropped her phone. Janelle stood completely still. She hadn't moved since he arrived, hadn't needed to, because he had come. The man in the suit, the man no one dared talk back to, the founder, the face behind Sterling & Co.'s billion-dollar empire, Cameron Donovan. And now the same woman they had drenched with soda, the one they had laughed at just minutes ago, was standing next to him. He turned to her, gently. "Are you all right, Janelle?" His voice dropped low, the kind of voice that made powerful people listen. She nodded once, but something behind her eyes still burned. Cameron turned back to the crowd, calm, composed, and dangerous. "Who did it?" he asked. No one spoke, Marissa tried to smile, her voice a little too high-pitched. "Sir, I think this is just a misunderstanding. I mean, we were all joking and—" He cut in. "I asked who assaulted my wife." Now the word assaulted hung in the air like thunder. One intern slowly backed up, as though the glass wall behind her could swallow her whole. Cameron stepped forward. He was not shouting. He did not need to. He was the kind of man who carried silence like a weapon. "You think she is just the janitor," he said, looking at them one by one. "You think because she wears this uniform, she is invisible, disposable." No one moved. No one here bothered to ask who she really is, what she is worth, what we are worth, together. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a tablet. With one swipe, he connected to the building's internal server. Security footage appeared on the screen. The hallway camera. Every second, every word, every drop of coke. Captured. Everyone saw it. The smirk on Marissa's face, the soda flying through the air, the laughter, the mockery, the way the security guard had looked the other way. Janelle had not said a single word, but now her truth was louder than a scream. Cameron looked at the footage and then turned the screen toward them. "Every executive in this company just received this clip," he said calmly, "along with your names." One intern broke into tears. Marissa's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "And just to be clear," he added, "this is not a warning. This is your last moment in this building." The security guard, now paying very close attention, stepped forward as if he had been waiting for the signal. "Escort them all out. Effective, immediately." "Wait, sir, please," Marissa pleaded. "It was just... I hope someone cleans up after you the way you treated her." That was the last thing he said to them, because he turned and gently removed his own jacket. He placed it over Janelle's shoulders, took her hand, and walked her out of that hallway like a queen. But the story was not over, because back in the executive wing, someone had watched all of it. Someone who knew who Janelle really was all along, and done nothing. And when that person's door opened next, Janelle was the one walking in, not as the cleaner, but as something they never imagined. Something that would change everything.
The executive wing at Sterling & Co. felt like a different world. Marble floors turned into velvet rugs, glass turned to polished wood. Paintings of old founders lined the walls, smiling men in suits, frozen in oil. But today, those walls felt colder, because Janelle was walking down them, not as a cleaner, not in a damp uniform, but in her husband's jacket, and with her head held high. Beside her, Cameron's expression was unreadable, but Janelle was breathing differently now, not like someone being careful, like someone coming home. The doors to the largest corner office stood open. Inside sat a woman, elegant, sharp-featured, and perfectly still. Claire Redmond, Chief Operating Officer, the second most powerful person in the company. She looked up slowly. Her face gave nothing away, but her eyes flicked once to the screen on her desk. The same footage Cameron had shared. She had seen it, from beginning to end, and had not moved a finger. "You knew?" Janelle said quietly. Claire leaned back. "I knew a lot of things." "You saw how they treated me?" Claire raised one eyebrow. "And I suppose you expect me to apologize for not stopping playground behavior among junior staff?" Janelle blinked. "You watched them laugh. You watched them pour soda on me." Claire crossed her legs. "Let me be clear. I never instructed anyone to harm you." "But you let it happen." Claire's lips curved just slightly. "You wanted to experience the real workplace, Janelle. You told Cameron that you wanted to understand how people treat those without a title. Well, Now you do. Cameron's expression narrowed, but Janelle held up a hand. She stepped forward, and now Claire leaned in. You could have joined the board a year ago, Janelle. You chose to play the maid. No, Janelle said calmly. I chose to see people for who they really are. Claire stood, slowly. This company runs on power, she said. And if you expect sympathy from me, I do not, Janelle interrupted. I am not here for sympathy. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a white envelope. Claire's smile vanished. You remember this? You signed it 18 months ago. A full legal contract. Claire's hand twitched. This company has a legacy clause. In the event of Cameron's medical absence or personal request, his shares transfer temporarily to one other name. She opened the envelope and laid it on the desk. My name. Claire's face finally cracked. I now hold 51% control of Sterling & Co., effective as of this morning. Cameron had not said a word. He just stood there, watching. You said this company runs on power, and now I have it. Claire's eyes darkened. You will regret this, she said softly. No, you will. And then she turned away, leaving Claire frozen in her leather chair for the first time in years, speechless. Outside, as Janelle walked through the halls she used to mop, whispers followed her. But not the kind that mocked, the kind that said, who is she? How did we not know? What happens now? Because no one realized Janelle had not just come to clean up the floors. She had come to clean out the entire company. And there was still one person left to confront, someone even closer to her than Claire. And when she found out what he had done behind her back, it would hurt far more than soda ever could. The boardroom doors closed behind her with a soft thud. Janelle stood alone now. No mop, no uniform, no one sneering at her from the corner. But this confrontation was not with the interns, not with Marissa, not even with Claire. It was with the person who had watched her suffer silently the longest and never once stepped in. Her husband. Cameron stood by the tall windows, hands folded, gazing out over the city skyline. She waited. He turned, slowly. You should have told me. Cameron nodded once. I should have. I begged you not to tell anyone who I was. I asked you to let me work like a regular person. But the moment I called, you arrived. You had the footage. You were ready. Why? His voice was quiet. Because I was watching the entire time. Janelle's heart twisted. You knew what they were doing to me? Every time they laughed, when they threw soda on me, you knew? Cameron stepped forward, his voice breaking slightly. I had people watching for your safety, yes, but I promised not to interfere unless you called me. She swallowed. And Claire? I let her stay to see how she'd handle power without oversight. She failed. Janelle stepped closer, her eyes narrowing, not with anger, but something deeper. Pain. You said you loved me. I do, he replied. Then how could you let me suffer like that? Cameron finally broke. I thought I was honoring your strength. You told me you wanted to see the truth, to feel what it was like to be dismissed, underestimated, so you could understand the company before taking your place. Tears slid down her cheeks now, not from weakness, but the kind that burn after holding them in too long. I wanted to experience the real world, not be sacrificed to it. He lowered his head. I am sorry. Silence. Then, she asked the one question that changed everything. If I had never called you, would you still be watching? He looked up. Yes, every day. I was waiting, not to save you, but to stand behind you when you were ready. Something in her eyes softened, but she did not smile. Instead, she turned to the boardroom table, where her nameplate now sat beside the CEO's. Chairman Janelle Donovan. I am not here to be anyone's wife, she said firmly. Not just the cleaner, not just the boss's partner. Cameron stepped back, understanding. You are here, he said, as the woman who saw everything and still chose to lead with grace. Janelle took her seat. Outside, the entire building was buzzing. Word had spread. The cleaner was the company's new owner. And something strange was happening in the break room. People cleaned up after themselves. Security held doors open. Even Marissa, from a distance, was seen crying alone on the curb. Janelle never spoke to her again. She did not need to. The lesson had already been written, in action, not words. And so, the woman they thought had no power became the one who changed the rules for everyone. Because sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one no one saw coming.